Welcome into another episode of Three's a Crowd. I'm Preston Vargas, back here for another one, and we got a lot to talk about today. From the Ravens getting the new head coach to other vacancies that may or may not open up soon, plus who's going to go to the Super Bowl. We got a lot to talk about. But first, before we get into this, don't forget to like, share this video to whoever you think would like to hear what I'm saying, and also subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot. Our goal is to get up to 100 subscribers by the start of March. So please subscribe. That'll help us out a lot. Anyway, let's get into this one. The Ravens, they finally get their guy, Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator from the Los Angeles Chargers, as their head coach, replacing John Harbaugh. And I think this is a good hire for them. You saw what the Chargers defense was under him with Khalil Mack and all those other guys, Derwin James. Yeah, they had some star players, but they really turned a corner once he got to LA. And really the defense was the only bright spot in that playoff loss that they had to New England. And I think that this should be a slam dunk hire for them, in my opinion, because of that. You talk about Baltimore with Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, all those guys. That was their big Achilles heel last year, where they couldn't get over the hump. And in my opinion, that was their that was their big thing. I think the question is who are they going to hire as their offensive coordinator to work with Lamar? That's another conversation. We'll get into that. But like I said, the physicality of Baltimore was lacking. That's not what you saw from previous years with Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, all those guys. The 2000 Baltimore's defense. This defense didn't resemble any of that. And to have him come in, I think this will help restore that image. I believe he's either on John Harbaugh's staff in Baltimore, or I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think Jesse Minter could definitely instill that physicality that they had back in those days. And then going to the offensive side of the ball, whoever they're going to hire as their offensive coordinator, we're hearing names like Joe Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator, um, other guys. I know Matt Nagy is interviewing with the Philadelphia Eagles as their offensive coordinator. I don't think he's the guy, but it'll be interesting to see. You got to have someone that can work well with Lamar Jackson. That's going to be definitely going to be key. I think Monken's going to the Giants with John Harbaugh. I think in terms of that, we'll see who they hire an offensive coordinator. Now, a more interesting story is that who's going to be the Buffalo head coach? We've heard a lot of rumors. We are today. Philip Rivers is interviewing with the Bills today for their head coaching job. That'll be interesting to see. Mike McDaniel as well. I think he's going to interview, even though he accepted the OC role with the Chargers. He's still looking for a head coaching job. And remember, there are still, I think, four vacancies available. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Browns, Raiders, Cardinals, and Bills are still open. I think those are all the openings remaining. But Buffalo, I want to talk about that press conference and that whole debacle. First, let's go back to Sean McDermott firing. I didn't think he should have been fired because you got the results you needed. You just, in a way, it's complicated, in my opinion, because in that loss to Denver wasn't his fault. Because, in my opinion, Josh Allen just at the end of the first half in that game, just inexplicable fumble that made a two possession game at the half and allowed Denver to get three free points. And in terms of that caused them to send it to overtime. You just have to play better in those situations. And and then I didn't think that Brandon Beane should have been promoted to president. How? Outside of Josh Allen, you barely drafted a Pro Bowler. You brought in some pieces like Joey Bosa, who's just not that good anymore. Let's face facts there. The defense was atrocious, and that was Sean McDermott's bread and butter. He's a defensive guy. Joe Brady has been working well with Josh Allen through the past few years since Dayball left, or I'm sorry, since Ken Dorsey left, or he since he got fired, I think after 2022. You brought in Joe Brady in 23. They've been doing well in that situation, becoming the best player in the NFL, elevating Josh Allen into that. And where they go from here at head coach is going to be interesting because now I'm going to talk about the press conference that happened. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. But he, I want to address Keon Coleman as well. Man, he got a lot of strays in that press conference, saying that it wasn't there's a question about Keon Coleman. The owner, Terry Pagula, interrupted Brandon Beane, saying that it was the coaching staff basically threw him under the bus. So if I'm Keon Coleman, how could I show up and play for that organization again after basically getting cast aside like that? That was totally reprehensible on their end by placing blame on Sean McDermott. And yes, I've been critical of Keon Coleman that him being a healthy scratch, him not showing up to meetings, that's something on his end he has to fix too. But don't denigrate this kid. Don't denigrate him at all. He he's not the number one receiver option on that team. That's been quite clear. Khalil Shakir has. He just need to surround Josh Allen with more talent, and that goes to show to be interesting to see who's going to be their head coach going forward. Maybe during this episode we'll get a clarity on who's going to be their head coach. But now let's move on to college football. The CFP announced today that they did not have an agreement to go to a 16 team format, but they are going to stay at a 12 team format with some adjustments. All the Power Four champions would get into the college football playoff. Plus, Notre Dame, if they finish in the top 12, would get an automatic bid. Now I'm going to go on to the Notre Dame thing for a second. I think this is just a complete and utter joke. You have Notre Dame, if they finish top 12, getting a spot in the college football playoff. Why? They're not playing in a conference. That's the thing. And what does this compel other teams in their situation? Ohio State, Michigan. Do you think they'll ask out of the Big Ten if they just miss out on the college football playoff? And also, the Group of Five gets one slot in. I forgot to mention that. But do you think that the Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, do you think they're gonna ask out of their conferences just to get into just because if they finish top 12, they could get into the college football playoff? You're opening up a Pandora's box of issues there. All of these power programs, Florida State in particular, if this format was implemented, you wouldn't have had you've had the four best conference champions plus a group of five. The group of five would have been Tulane. You would have had every Power Four champion except for Duke. Duke wasn't in; they would be in under this format. Which I'll talk about the ACC. I've gone over the ACC tiebreakers in the past as a complete joke that they need to they need to redo their tiebreaker. That's a different conversation for another time. But I'll have to. This is not a good situation. Notre Dame already has the advantages as a team that they could keep all the revenue. The way it's structured now, I believe that Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, all the big schools, Oregon, with all the Nike money, could say, you know what? We're gonna be independent in football. So we can make more money that way. We don't have to pay a percentage to the conference. And if we finish top 12, we can get in. You can't have both ways in this situation. Either do a top 12 college football playoff with the 12 best teams, no conference championship bids, or don't. And don't have Notre Dame finish in as a top 12 if they don't qualify to be in the playoff under a conference champion entrance format. If it's if I'm saying it right or if you follow. And then they want to go to 16 teams, but I think every Power Four conference one agreed 16 teams. But the Big Ten wants to stipulate that they want the SEC to agree that they go to 24 teams in the future with four automatic bids, I think, for the Big Ten and the SEC. And I think that's damn stupid to have to have a automatic bids for a conference. Now I think having the five best conference champions in there is the best opportunity because you're rewarding success in your conference. You still want it to mean something, but where do you go if you have let's say you have a Duke situation? They would get into college football playoff. If this format were implemented now, Miami would not be in because of it. And they made it all the way to the national title. I think it is time to expand to 16 teams. But if you expand to 24, I think in that situation you have to have the champion of all 9 or 10 FBS conferences into the college football playoff. And then have at-larges done. You can do it like the FCS model. We'll say that. And the calendar needs to change. That's another thing. You can't have the transfer portal during the playoffs. You can't have coaches leaving before the playoffs. That's the main thing they gotta get buttoned down, and then we could have all this conversation later. And now we'll shift over to the NBA. The question is, where is Giannis gonna go? Now, there's been rumblings in the last week that we could see the Giannis's tenure with the or not the Milwaukee Bucks coming to an end soon. And we'll have that game stream later on tonight at 9:30. Make sure to tune in for that for their game against the Nuggets. Second game of the doubleheader. First game, Rockets going up against the Pistons. But Giannis, I think in 2 weeks he's going to be shipped out of Milwaukee. I know I have Milwaukee Bucks fans who might come onto the stream for that game. I know that they I think talk to them later. I think they say Giannis is gone after the trade deadline. Now I'll talk about teams in certain landing spots. Detroit, New York, San Antonio. Let's talk about the Knicks for a second in terms of being a good landing spot. Now they did blow out the New York Nets. Uh, I think it was Wednesday night, if I'm not mistaken. But they're still third. They're still third in the East. They're going through a little bit of a little lull right now, but they seem to be finding their stride. They're 26 and 18. Still 7 games back from the Detroit Pistons, who are just on a roll. Glad we're going to get a chance to see them tonight play. But right now, Detroit's the second best team. I'll go into all those what we're talking about Detroit a couple of years ago. That's not a conversation for today. San Antonio, can you get them in with Wembanyama? I think if you get Giannis in, they'll probably go in the power forward. Who's their power forward now? I think Harrison Barnes, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Harrison Barnes. I think that would be a perfect fit. Slide Giannis into that power forward role, have Barnes coming off the bench. I think that would work well for San Antonio. The Detroit Pistons, I think they have a good case. With that Tobias Harris at power forward, definitely an upgrade over him. No disrespect to Tobias Harris. I think he's a solid player. I think I liked him when he was with the Magic. He could be a solid option as a six man. And the Knicks, let's see who they have starting a power forward. OG Anunoby, still a solid player. At center, Karl Anthony Towns. I don't. I think the Knicks would be the third option to trade him to. The best option to put, my opinion, the best option for Giannis if he wants to go win another title, go to San Antonio. You got a young Wembanyama you can play with for the next few years, or however long you want to stay in. Because how old is Giannis? I think he might have just turned 30. I know he's over 30 right now, if I'm not mistaken. 31 years old. So 31, let's say he has like 5, 6 years left in his prime. You can go to San Antonio, maybe sign an extension there. You could probably win a couple titles down there with Mitch Johnson and Wemby. So I think that's going to be the best situation. And now let's talk about the Orlando Magic. I haven't talked about them much this season. Now the football season's over for the Bears. I'm going all in on the Orlando Magic. And you know what? I'm not liking what I'm seeing right now from my team. Right now, we've lost our last two games. Lost, we're 5-5 in our last 10 games, but 23 and 27th in the Eastern Conference. We got blown out by Charlotte at home, blown out by Memphis, and I think that was in London. You were down big to Memphis, came back, down big to New Orleans, came back, down big to the Nets. You lost to the Wizards, down by a lot, only lost by 8 that game. This is unacceptable to the Orlando Magic. There is too much talent on this team where you can get blown out like this. This was supposed to be a down year for most of the top of the Eastern Conference. This was the chance to pounce if you were the Magic. Boston's doing well. Indiana's last in the Eastern Conference. They're struggling without Tyrese Halliburton right now. Detroit, we thought they would be good, but not where they were now. The Knicks and Cavs we thought would be at the top. The Knicks are still top three. The Cavs are the sixth seed right now. This was your chance to make a statement in the Eastern Conference with Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner. You added Desmond Bane in the offseason to get threes. Where does our offense rank in terms of threes? In terms of points per game? Let me see complete team stats in that category because I'm telling you, our offense has been putrid. Only scoring 97 against Charlotte. And let's talk about that for a second. The Magic got back in from playing a couple games in Europe on Monday. They've been off this whole time trying to get prepared. The night before, the Charlotte Hornets lost at home to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And they go on the road to play the Magic and blow them out at home. This is the second time this season the Magic have gotten blown out against the Hornets. I've been critical of Jamal Mosley. It's time for him to go. I'm sorry. There's too much talent on this team. And in my opinion, You haven't done a good job getting them to the next level. We've been to the playoffs twice, first round of both times. Got to a game seven against Cleveland. Should have taken the next step there. Now, injuries, yet long-term injuries to Powell and Franz during the regular season, got them to the seventh seed, and then basically a gentleman sweep against Boston in the first round. This time around, we're looking to go back to a seventh seed if the season were to end today. And you know who would play? Boston, who's played well right now without Jason Tatum. That's the scary part. No Jason Tatum, and they're second in the East. Still 5 games back from the Pistons, but still, imagine when he gets back. I, he's already starting to practice, so there's no doubt he's coming back. The question is he going to be back for the playoffs? I think so. Can the Magic stop him? Maybe. We're putting yourself into situations like this again. I think if we, I'm not saying we should move on from him now, but if we get first round again, I think we should fire Jamal Mosley as our head coach. I don't think he's the guy moving forward. When you have Mike Malone sitting out there, I think he's still on TV with ESPN, but he's available. He's won a championship. He only got fired from Denver because he didn't get along with the GM. And I think Mike Malone, he's a great coach. And I think if you're the Magic, you should try any way to get him to come to Orlando this offseason. That's my take on the Magic right now. Our next game, Saturday against Cleveland at home. We'll see. We'll definitely see in that game who's going to be the better team. All right, let's go into our other headlines. While we were filming, we got breaking news that Sir Anthony Dominguez and the Chicago White Sox agreed to a 2-year, $20 million deal. He was with the Phillies the last few years, now going to the South Side of Chicago as one of their relievers on a 2-year deal. Pretty solid move for them. Fernando Mendoza, no surprise, he's entering the NFL draft, where he's probably going to be number one, or he's probably most likely going to be the number one pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, leading Indiana to the national championship, that's a big accomplishment for him. And LeBron addressed the article saying that he doesn't really care about he doesn't really care about what the Bus family sent. That's a pretty irrelevant story, but still want to be told. Speaking of the Lakers, LeBron and the Lakers played the Clippers last night. Kawhi Leonard scored 24 as the Clippers beat the Lakers last night at the Intuit Dome. Tyrese Maxey of the Sixers Tyrese Maxey scores 20-36 as the Sixers beat the Rockets in OT. And South Carolina women's basketball went to overtime against Oklahoma in the SEC. Number 16 Oklahoma lost that game 94 to 82, the second loss for South Carolina on the season. So we'll see where they fall. South Carolina has a big game this Sunday at 3 against Vanderbilt. That's going to be one to watch. And now we'll get into our other games this Sunday. The ones that you guys are probably going to watch. The conference championships. And I'll preview the games, tell you my pick on who's going to go to the Super Bowl. So we'll start with in order of games. We'll start with the 3 o'clock game. The Patriots taking on the Broncos. So we all know how how they beat Buffalo in the AFC title game, or in the divisional round in overtime. But we got the news after the game that Bo Nix is out for the season with an ankle injury. As I understand, he had a procedure on that, I think Tuesday. So he'll be back for next season for sure. But they're going to start Jarrett Stidham, who hasn't really thrown a pass in a regular season game since 2023. So we'll see how that goes. And then the Patriots, you got Drake May, who didn't have the cleanest game against the Texans defense. They really capitalized on uh CJ Stroud's mistakes in that one to get to the AFC title game, which is good for them. Now I'll give you my pick here. Here are the keys to the Broncos winning. Now I'm not picking the Broncos yet, or if I'm picking them, I'll give you my game pick at the end of this statement. For the Broncos, Jarrett Stidham, they don't need him to win this game, but they can't have him lose the game either. I think their defense is good enough, their pass rush is good enough to get to the New England Patriots. And Drake May has taken more than a few sacks in the playoffs. So it's not like he's uncompromised at this point. But you don't need the defense can win this game for you. Jarrett Stidham just can't lose it. You got to rely on the run game with RJ Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, Tyler Bidet, all those guys. You got pretty good running backs there in the RB room. And that's what you're gonna have to rely on to win this game. And for the Patriots, on the defensive side, you're going against a backup quarterback. Can you can you make sure that you can hold on and win this game? Because I think this will be a closer game. I think the Patriots were favored by 4.5. I think it's going to be a closer game than that. But in terms of my pick, I'm going to take the Patriots by 3 on the road. I think they win by a field goal. And then moving on to the NFC title game, the Los Angeles Rams and Seattle Seahawks. Now, I'll start with the Rams because I saw them play last week against the Bears. And yes, we could say that we should have won that game, but the thing is, Caleb threw 3 interceptions in that game. Now, a couple of them were miscommunications, but that's another conversation for another time. I think I think the Bears will win the Super Bowl next year, in my opinion. But we're talking about the 2025 season, and unfortunately, the Bears are not playing in the NFC Championship this week. So for the Rams, their defense, can they get to the pat? Can they get to the pass rush? That's the key if they want to win this game. Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua need to step up on offense. The Rams were lucky to get out of Chicago in that freezer that was Soldier Field. I know our co-host Eli Atwood was there. He'll tell you on Monday when he comes back on the show about the cold, but still, the Rams were lucky to get out of that game into overtime. And now let's talk about the Seahawks. Like I said with Jarrett Stidham, Sam Darnold doesn't need to be the one that wins this game. He wasn't the one that won the game against the Niners in the divisional round, and that's the key. When I saw what the Seahawks did to the Niners, I was like, they're winning the Super Bowl. That was, I think they have the one of the most elite defenses left in this league. There's no question now they have the best defense now left in the playoffs after Houston lost. The way they got to Brock Purdy, the way they picked the ball off, the way you stopped the run against Christian McCaffrey, who's an MVP finalist, by the way. They stopped him twice in 2 weeks. That should say something about this Seattle Seahawks team. They're good, and how good they are, they don't need they don't need Sam Darnold to win this one. Now you lost Zach Charbonnet for the season. That's a shame. Kenneth Walker, he's got to step up in a big way, which he did. 3 touchdowns in the divisional round. We'll see how this one goes. Let me check the point spread right now. Um, so There's not an easy way to see the line here. I'll check on CBS Sports 2.5 for Seattle. I'm taking Seattle by 6 in this one. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back again for another episode on Monday. But don't forget tonight and all this weekend, we got 7 different streams, including a doubleheader tonight at 7 with the Rockets and Pistons, plus the Bucks and Nuggets tonight at 9:30. We also have college basketball triple header starting at 3 with Illinois, Purdue, Houston, Texas Tech coming up at 6:30, and following that will be Tennessee and Alabama. Plus, we got the conference championship games on Sunday. Don't forget to tune into those as well. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this one. Have a great evening, and we'll see you again next time.